I'm wondering what the actual process of going through civil was like for you. Could you share a little bit more about that?
I was really lucky. Before I even knew what trauma-informed meant, which is a term I now know working at No More, I realised now I was able to feel it. I was very lucky that the law firm that I went through, every meeting we had, they would tell me beforehand what to expect. So how much of the abuse I'd have to disclose, whether I didn't even have to speak about that at all. And I think that that was really helpful. I'm sort of comparing the way you answered, you know, what you were expecting when you first called No More, and it was the same thing. I didn't know. And I hadn't had any experience with the legal system previously. It was a really long road. So from start to finish, it probably took 2.5 years of my life. And I was really lucky. My case was resolved at mediation, but had it actually gone to court, it would have added more years, I imagine. And then I guess you've got to consider that the world doesn't politely sort of go on hold for you while you're dealing with it. So I still had to, you know, have my full-time job. I still had my sons that I was raising at home. And yeah, you just have to function in the real world. So because my abuse occurred in the familial setting, I was eligible to apply for civil litigation, but I was also eligible to apply for victims of crime through the state in which the abuse occurred. So similar to you talking about the counselling, I was able to get free counselling through the New South Wales Victims of Crime.
And what do you think that another survivor watching this, what would you want them to know about what to expect of this justice pathway?
Yeah, look, there's probably so many learnings, but first and foremost, I would say expect a long wait. The system's designed to shake you off. No one really wants to deal with it. I was lucky my lawyers were really lovely and considerate of me, but that doesn't mean that the abuser's lawyers are going to be equally considerate of me. They would wait till as close to 5 o'clock the night before a deadline or a mediation was scheduled to ask for a postponement. And it's never by days, it's always by months. So, you know, if you can imagine you're feeling sick and anxious all the way up until this deadline, you're counting it down, only to have it changed all over again. And so it was a constant of that, and you've got to be willing to do it. You've also got to be, I guess, mentally fit, because as much as you can have people who love and support around you, you're the person that's going to carry that mostly, and there are some decisions only you can make. And I remember now, I was seeing a counsellor at the time that I'd made the decision to go down this pathway, and she actually dropped me as a client when she heard I was going down this pathway, simply because she had been called as a witness for a previous client, and I'm guessing the process was so horrific she didn't want to go through it again. So it's kind of sad that people working particularly in the profession don't even want to go through it. It's that brutal. I think I was spared a lot of it because I didn't have to go to court. It was resolved in mediation. And I'd also say a practical tip, just always have a notebook with you. Get one notebook at the beginning, and every single meeting you have with anyone, whether it's a quick call or it's a meeting, write it down, because I couldn't remember things as soon as I hung up the phone, let alone remembering things 2.5 years later when I needed to go back and remind myself.
That's really hard. I mean, like the feeling of already being exhausted, and then your formal supports, you know, your counsellor refusing to continue on, that's a lot. And it sounds like no two journeys through the civil pathway are the same. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way
tough.
of describing it. Yeah. Yeah, it was devastating at the time. But again, I was really lucky. It was actually my lawyer who told me that I could apply for the counselling part of victims of crime. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. Yeah.
So really deeply listening and writing down in your book what your lawyer's saying, and where they're referring you to as well is really important.
Yeah, and even just having reputable lawyers, I guess, because, you know, both of us, we hear the stories all the time of lawyers who take advantage of clients and end up with a bigger payout at the end than the client did. So I was just very lucky that I went through a law firm that had my interest at heart.
So having really reputable lawyers and good supports around you is important. I'm interested to know about this concept of closure and healing, I guess. Have you experienced closure at all from this process? And what was that like?
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult. I didn't have that fairy tale eat, pray, love moment where, everything was healed. I don't like referring to myself as a survivor because I feel like that means it is all healed and I've survived. I feel it's more apt to say I'm surviving. But I do have to say that on the day of the mediation, I'd had to fly to Sydney because I was abused in Sydney but living in Melbourne at the time. So after a full day of mediation, you can imagine the emotions going up and down, then having to fly back to Melbourne that night, had a shower, finally lay down in bed. And I remember just lying there, and it was the first time it dawned on me after 2.5 years of what I'd gone through. And I actually remember this moment where I touched my lips. This is going to sound really bizarre, but I touched my lips and I was like, I'm smiling. And I couldn't believe I was just smiling from, I don't know what that was. So I guess in some way, some healing occurred at that moment.
I can picture it. It's kind of like the smile you've got on right now. That's so nice.